Welcome to EMTB videos.
There's a company called Elife, Norwegian company, and they produce e-bikes. They have done it for a few years, and now they have their first version of a trail bike called the Elife X.
The Elife X might look familiar to some of you. It's based, or rather built, on a quite familiar frame. Some of you might know the Cheeb, the e-bike that's been built by Rob Ride's EMTB. And this is the same frame. And what's interesting is that the Elife, they have been part of the development process of this frame. They have done the visual design because Elife has got like a design language for their current bikes, and they really wanted the same sort of look on their full suspension EMTB. So they've been a big part of manufacturing or creating this frame. So Elife actually owns the rights for this frame in the Nordic countries. Elife has also got the rights for this motor, the Bafang M600S, and it's based on the Bafang M600, but that motor is not legal according to the EU regulations. So Elife wanted this powerful motor to be legal in Europe. And they've done a few changes to the controller and how much power it will deliver, and they changed the motor gears. In this motor there is the composite gears that make a bit of noise but are really durable. And the motor really is powerful, even though it's a EU legal motor. The guys developing this bike actually bought a high bike Fly-on to sort of try to make the Elife X as similar as possible. Perhaps they didn't really succeed in making it exactly as powerful, but it's still a really powerful motor. And it's a much more lightweight bike. It's like 3 or 4 kilos lighter. So as a trail bike, it really works well. But enough of that. How does this bike really ride?
So when we got this bike, at first we weren't super impressed.
No.
You can say it was a lot of power in the motor. But already when we got it, we were told that there was going to be an upgrade on the software for the motor, for the ramp up and how much power it gives. It felt a little crude at the beginning, because it took a while before it kicked in, and when it kicked in, it really took off. And
we had a few situations when trying to start in a steep hill, and we were leaning forwards, trying to push the pedals and leaning forwards, and we didn't manage to hold it back. It just tipped backwards right away when the motor engaged.
Wanted to go. So we tried a few other softwares, which makes it more controllable. Also, it came with the WTB tires.
Yeah, some 27.5 by 2.8 inches, really lightweight plus tires.
Yeah, with low rolling resistance, but not enough grip for what we're used to when we're riding our trails.
The handlebars were a bit narrow, 720 millimeters. So, we gave it a go. We just changed the tires, and also we changed the front wheel to a 29er wheel. So we altered the geometry a bit, which turned out really well for trail riding, especially while going downhill. But
it benefited from a bit slacker head angle.
Yeah, but even though with the new tires, we were not happy with the downhill performance at all, were we?
No.
It was the tires are lacking precision. The sidewalls are thin, and they're bouncing about on the trails, so they're not really giving us a settle and calm ride over the chatter. So we hoped that just by changing the tires, that would be sorted. That would improve precision when descending. But no.
So after changing the tires and we tried it downhill, it was still not quite what we were hoping for. We didn't have the completed precision that we were used to. And more than a few times, I kind of just gave up on trying to hit the line I was going, and went straight ahead and over most of the cruxes.
But we're not holding this against the Elife X, and that might sound surprising, but Elife really comes from city bikes, touring bikes, commuter bikes. So this is their sort of first attempt, and they set out to make sort of like an SUV bike with a lot of power. And sure, the plus tires are great for riding in the city because you might not get stuck in the trolley tracks, and a lot of the current customers are sort of expecting a bike that can be used for city riding. Yeah. But Elife also wants this bike to be a proper trail bike, and so we are giving them feedback on what components we prefer on this bike. And
they were also clear that this wasn't going to be the ultimate trail bike. But they were hoping to make new versions in the future.
Yeah, they're talking about making other bikes that will be more pure hardcore trail bikes. So it's okay. This was intended to be an SUV style bike, but they really wanted our feedback on how to make this a proper trail bike, and we really wanted to see how the bike really performs when we put on more suitable components. So we changed the handlebars to 780mm wide bars, and we rearranged the handlebar cockpit a bit, and we moved the brakes a bit outwards, and that allowed us to hold further out on the handlebars and to operate the brakes with just one finger, and that helped a lot. And also the handlebar width helped a lot. And I have to say, just by making these simple changes, this bike, it behaves just like any other 29er EMTB. The geometry is really close to a lot of the current 2020, 2021 Bosch EMTBs. Chainstays of 458mm. Wheelbase, I think they claim the bike has a wheelbase of 1240mm, but we've done a few changes and it seems to be 1250 at least. And after changing the wheels, I've got about 65 degrees head angle, and the seat tube originally is 74.5 degrees, but it's down to just under 74, I believe. And that figure is perhaps, it's a bit slack, but I think it's okay because the rear end, the chainstay length is fairly long, so it doesn't matter too much. We're not sacrificing much climbing abilities. Price is really good too. In Norwegian kroners, it's 62,000. I have got no idea what the international price is because it's mostly just sold in Norway, but if anyone decided they really need this bike, they could reach out to Elife and ask if it could be sold. And that's not too bad for a bike with a really powerful motor, a big battery, the RockShox Yari fork. The brakes are perhaps not the ultimate brakes, but solid performers. Never ridden those before. It's the SRAM G2, dual caliper brakes. And the shock is fairly basic. Deluxe Select performed well. We weren't really missing anything. Drivetrain is the SRAM NX with an 1150 cassette, so it's the 12-speed version. And it's if you have to ride a 12-speed drivetrain, then why not the NX? It's not too expensive. It's solid, durable gear.
When it comes to climbing, this motor really shines. You can really feel that it's powerful. It's probably the most powerful motor I've ridden. And it was quite fun going on slack uphills, going 25, 26, jumping on roots uphill.
Especially on the dry trails, the motor delivers a lot of power, and we are able to sort of control it and to utilize it. We had this sort of step-up climbing challenge, and yeah, you rode that with this bike.
Yeah. And I got up, and it's the first time I've ever been able to get up. And it also gives you a bit of power as you stop pedaling. So when you have that power, and it kind of gives you a little boost when you stop just right, you can get up a lot of places.
Yeah, because on this particular ledge we have to stop pedaling to level the pedals to get through.
There's a few rocks on the sides.
Yeah, and when we start pedaling again, some motors will have cut, and like the Shimano EP8, once you start pedaling again, you got the power immediately. Other motors will just keep trucking through, and so when you start pedaling again, the motor has never cut, and that works really well in this section. We did a lot of climbing in wet conditions too, and we we had no chance in the highest assistance levels. This motor has got 5 levels, and we had to take it down to 3 to make it work. But surprisingly, it wasn't too bad. It's still a powerful motor in level 3, and it keeps the pace up. And when riding in rocky, slippery conditions, you really need to carry a bit of speed. But if you get into trouble and you have to stop, then it's really difficult using a motor with high power that keeps pushing. But all in all, the Bafang M600S handled that surprisingly well. It feels a bit more harsh perhaps than motors like the EP8 and to some extent to the Bosch Performance CX, but it's a lot of that is down to what you're used to.
Yeah.
So
and also one of the positive things is that you can actually change out the software, and you can just go to Elife's shop and they can change out the software if you want a different profile, and they have a few profiles you can choose from.
Yeah, we tested several different profiles, and
it's an easy process. It only took a couple of minutes to change it out.
And that was quite fun actually. It's the first time we've experienced this, but during the testing period we gave some feedback to Elife, and they said, hey, great, I'll just have a talk with Bafang, and 2 days later he showed up with a new software that was sort of tweaked to according to our feedback. On the flat trails it can feel a tad front heavy, but that's how it is with these EMTBs. A lot of the contemporary 29er EMTBs has got like 455 to 460 chainstays, and you're moving the rider a bit forward, and it takes a bit of effort lifting the front end when you're not riding too fast. So it works as expected. It works well on the flat trails.
And when going downhill, as we said in the beginning, it felt a bit unstable and unsure. But after all these changes we have made to it, it feels stable. It feels more like the contemporary 29er bikes that we're used to. It doesn't do anything wrong.
Can carry a lot of speed, stable bike. Yeah. And we keep talking about the changes we did, and we talked to Elife about this, and they say, sure, no problem. If a customer wants different tires, different wheels, different handlebars, they usually change all those things. And we can't forget about the battery. It's a 840 watt-hours battery. According to my map, it could be 820, but everyone keeps referring to it as 840, so okay. It's a 48 volt system. And we asked why 48 volt. The previous version of this, or like the pre-production unit, was 36 volt. But they decided they wanted a 48 volt system to make the motor powerful at higher cadence. A 36 volt system would be really powerful at lower cadence, but it would give up way too soon. And this motor will really pedal at 110 RPM, no issues, with lots of power. This powerful motor really needs a big battery. We've got no problems draining this 840 watt-hours battery before we have emptied the Bosch 620 battery. And that's because this motor in the high resistance modes are drawing a lot of power. So we are getting sort of a free ride, free lunch, whatever, going uphill and putting in very little effort. And of course, that will drain the battery. If you go back down to like level 2 or 3, then you will get lots of range from this big battery. And if you want to go maximum power, it definitely needs this big battery. Also, this battery weighs just 4 kilos. So it's about half a kilo, I believe, more than the Bosch 630 watt-hours battery. So it's a really good weight on this battery. And the weight of the bike, we weighed it in at just over 24 kilos without pedals. But that weight is with the original wheels and handlebars. We are at about 25 kilos now. So pretty much the same as all the other 29er bikes with 630 watt-hours battery.
That's it. Appreciate any likes and subscribes. Thanks for watching.